If I asked you to hand over $100 in cold, hard cash, you'd feel it. You'd count the bills, feel the paper between your fingers. There'd be a moment, maybe just half a second, where something in you resisted, where the weight of the transaction actually registered. But tap your card, and it's over before your brain even catches up. No resistance, no moment of loss, just a beep, a green light, and you're already walking away. Same $100. Completely different psychological experience. And here's what makes this worth understanding. That difference isn't an accident, it's the point. Because the less spending feels like spending, the more of it happens. And once you see exactly how that works, inside your own brain, in real time, every time you tap, you won't look at a contactless payment the same way again. And this is where it becomes a problem. Because this is how people end up spending hundreds, sometimes thousands, without ever feeling like they did. We've all had that moment. You open your banking app on a Friday, look at the balance, and for a brief, disorienting second, you genuinely wonder if something went wrong. Wait, when did I spend all this? But nothing went wrong. You weren't hacked, nothing was stolen. You just experienced what happens when dozens of transactions occur without a single moment of psychological weight. Without a single instance of your brain registering, clearly, concretely, that money left your possession. You've probably felt this. The $5 coffee that didn't feel like $5. The $14 Uber that didn't feel like $14. The Amazon order that went from cart to doorstep without a real decision in between. Individually, they feel like nothing. But when you open your banking app on a Friday, they don't feel like nothing anymore. Each one frictionless. Each one forgettable. And together, not the $500 purchase, never the big one, but the latte, the Uber, the add-on, the delivery fee, they add up to something that genuinely surprises you. Because none of them felt like a decision. And that is the point. Invisible by design. Not because someone sat in a boardroom and decided you shouldn't remember your spending, but because every layer of friction that was removed made forgetting just a little more likely. The intention was simply to make payment easier. Here's the mechanism underneath this. When you pay with cash, your brain registers something real leaving your hand, and that triggers what researchers call the pain of paying. Not metaphorically. Brain imaging research shows that spending activates the same neural regions associated with physical discomfort. The response is measurable, consistent, and meaningfully weaker when the payment is digital. And that discomfort matters. It slows you down. It acts like a natural brake, a small moment of friction between wanting something and paying for it. And when that disappears, spending doesn't just feel easier, it becomes harder to control. Research comparing cash and card spending found something remarkably consistent. People spend more when paying by card than when paying with equivalent cash. Not because they intend to, not because they consciously decide to spend more freely, but because the psychological cost of each transaction is meaningfully lower. The brake is engaged less, the friction is reduced, and spending quietly expands to fill the space that friction used to occupy. Here's the part that actually explains all of it. Behavioral economists call this decoupling. It's what happens when the moment you pay and the moment you enjoy something stop feeling like the same event. With cash, they're fused. You feel the cost at the exact moment you receive the reward. Your brain processes both simultaneously, the gain and the loss together in real time. But with a card, you get the reward now. The cost comes later, a different moment, a different mood. A different version of you who has to look at a number on a screen and try to reconstruct decisions that already feel distant. And here's what makes this powerful. Your brain doesn't naturally bridge that gap. It doesn't automatically connect Friday's banking app to Monday's coffee. Those feel like separate events. Neurologically, they are. So the reward registers fully, immediately. And the cost? It arrives late, alone, stripped of context, just a number, with no emotional memory attached to it. That's not a willpower failure. That's decoupling working exactly as the architecture of frictionless payment was designed to produce. Payment has been getting easier for decades. Cash required a physical exchange. Cards reduced that friction. Contactless payment removed the pause almost entirely. And now, with one-click checkout and automatic payments, the decision itself is starting to disappear. You don't just spend faster, you spend without noticing. And this is where it scales. Every step removes a little more friction. And when friction goes down, spending goes up. Not because you decide to spend more, but because nothing slows you down. And the system didn't stop there. Each innovation was sold as convenience, and it was. But convenience and frictionlessness are the same thing. And frictionlessness, as you now know, is exactly what makes spending invisible. The problem isn't just how you spend, it's when you feel it. With cash, the feedback is immediate. You feel the cost at the exact moment of the decision. The two are inseparable. But with cards, that feedback is delayed, sometimes by hours, sometimes by weeks. And by the time you open the app and see the number, the decisions that produced it are already distant, already locked in, already stripped of the emotional context that would have made them feel real. And that's why the Friday moment feels so disorienting. It's not that you forgot, it's that your brain never had a chance to register it in the first place. Delayed feedback doesn't just arrive late, it arrives too late to change anything. Here's what this actually means. If this feels familiar, it's not a discipline problem. It's not inattention. It's not carelessness. It's what happens when spending stops feeling real. And that shift happens automatically, below conscious awareness, every single time you tap. It shows up with subscriptions, where you never even see the transaction, with small daily purchases, where each one feels insignificant, with online shopping, where the decision and the consequence are separated by nothing more than a button and a delivery window. Different contexts, same mechanism. The cost becomes invisible. And invisible costs don't get weighed, they just accumulate. Knowing this doesn't fix it on its own, because the mechanism runs whether you understand it or not. But understanding it is where the fix has to start. You can't undo the architecture, but you can put friction back in, deliberately and on your own terms. Delete saved card details from your most used shopping apps. Not forever, just long enough that buying something requires a conscious act instead of a reflex. Set a single weekly moment, 5 minutes, same day every week. Open your account and read every transaction out loud in your head. Not to judge them, just to feel them. To give your brain the moment of registration it never got in real time. Cancel one subscription this week. Not because it's wasteful, but because the act of reviewing it, deciding on it, and taking an action forces the cost back into consciousness. Do that once, and you'll look at all of them differently. None of this is restriction, it's just visibility, because the system was built to keep spending invisible. And visibility is the only thing that actually interrupts it. So the next time you tap your card, and nothing happens. No hesitation, no wait, no moment of loss, just a beep, a green light, and you're already moving on. Remember what that feeling actually is. Not the absence of spending, the absence of the feeling of spending. The money moved, the account changed, the decision was made. Your brain just wasn't invited to notice. And that gap between what happened and what was felt is not a glitch in your financial psychology. It is a feature of a payment environment built to keep that gap as wide as possible. Because the wider the gap, the more transactions fit inside it. The next time your monthly statement arrives and the number surprises you, don't reach for an explanation about discipline, intention, or financial responsibility. Reach for a more accurate one. You spent the way the system was designed to make you spend, frictionlessly, invisibly, without a single moment that felt like a real decision. That's exactly the point. The problem isn't that you spent the money, it's that you never felt yourself spending it. And now that you can see it, you can decide whether to keep letting it run. If this reframed the way you think about your own spending, especially the spending you don't even remember making, subscribe for more on the psychology behind everyday financial decisions. And I'll see you in the next one.